Hey everyone, this is Jebro, and today I'm going to be talking about the build I'm playing in the ranked season 2 of Guild Wars 2 PvP. So if you're actually looking at my video and you're thinking, what's he talking about? I'm talking about this, PvP League Season 2. If you go to the double swords, of course, and you can compete in ranked arena, unranked, and of course you can go to check out where you are in your league. And in this season, I just literally hit diamond, so it's looking pretty good at the moment. Quite happy about this, but otherwise, how did I get here? What build did I use, and what have I been playing? I've been playing engineer, of course. If you're on my channel and you know who I am, engineer is my main class. I like to think I'm okay at it, but I feel like I've actually improved recently. But you know, there's a couple of key things you got to do, and you got to think about when you're actually playing. Say, if you're playing as an engineer. And if you're playing as other classes as well, just general things, good things to think about. Remembering to know your build and exactly what's going on in your build. Like, this is the engineer meta build pretty much at the moment. You don't really need to change anything in this. A few people change different things depending on what they're going up against. Obviously, you know, changing things like utilities very important as well, and changing maybe even amulets or runes, and maybe even sigils, depending. Sigils for me have been pretty standard, you know. Energy not really important anymore or useful, because it's changed from giving you, you know, that extra energy bar on weapon swap to just giving you vigor. Not as great as it used to be, of course. So what's good about this build is that, and things to really remember and realise, especially that have helped me as I'm moving through, and it may sound obvious, you know, but just really good things to remember and think about, is that it is Inventions, Alchemy and Scrapper, of course. Scrapper is going to give you a lot of your survivability as well as stability as well, and is going to give you a lot of healing through your swiftness and super speed. So using things like super speed when you need to have a little bit of an extra heal, not even just when you need to use it to get a break stun, are very, very important and key. Things like, are you going to use Bulwark Gyro when you're going against 3 Necros? No. I'd rather use something like Purge Gyro. So it's going to remove conditions, and it's still going to give me the stability as well. And it's going to remove conditions from allies. That's very important as well if you say you're going against 2 or 3 Necros and no one is rolling an Elementalist, because no one's going to be removing any conditions. You're removing some through your healing turret, for example, and also for your elixir guns, such as, you know, Super Elixir and Fumigate there as well. And obviously you've got your self remove and whatnot as well as that. So, you know, thinking about things like this are really, really important to make sure you're successful, because, okay, you're playing solo queue. It's really, really difficult. This is what I've solo queued through most of Ruby. Okay, I've played with a couple of people here and there, not in, like, you know, focused team comps or anything, but up until Ruby I was playing with some top players as well. But Ruby is really where the hard work kind of begins in ranked. So I thought, you know, I'm going to try and actually queue solo, and that's what I did. As you can see, I have the Juggernaut. I just got it as well, so congrats to me. Anyway, don't be jealous of that, people. It's okay. One day you will get yours. So why is this build good? Again, you know, survivability, condition removal and whatnot, as well as might stacking and survivability through scrap are really useful, as well as the increased damage to your hammer, of course. It's not fully the meta build, and there's different things you can change, which I feel might help you in solo queue, you know? Engineer still, it's not dealing, it's got sustain, but it's not got the massive amount of damage at the end of the day. Not as much as everyone else. Obviously, you know, support classes, Druid and Ellie, still not as much damage, you know, but they can pull out the Ranger can pull out some nice damage, you know, with Bristleback or whatever, stacking might and whatnot. So I run Marauder Amulet. Normally, in the meta at the moment, it's Paladins. If you're going against your heavy Necro team, you could run something, you know, where you're running Menders. So you've got a little bit more healing power for you and your team and your allies, and you're a little bit more sustainable. You're not doing as much damage, but you still got power and precision as well. You can see there, you know, you're not getting the ferocity as whatnot, and also the extra precision that you would need to get that extra damage, as well as the ferocity, of course. Now, when I crit, I want to get extra damage on my crit, so ferocity, getting my ferocity stat on Marauder is really, really important. I do a ton of damage, especially if you've got a Necro and he's low HP and he's about to go into Reaper Shroud. If you can pull off some extra damage on top of that, which pulls him into down state before he's able to get that off, then all the better. Because otherwise, you know, Paladins I'm finding that I'm having some difficulty sometimes. Paladins is obviously in Pro League. Pro League is not ranked Q. So, you know, these are all just ways and things that I felt are very useful for myself. Now, rune-wise, this is really up to you. I find that because I've gone for the traits and, you know, the meta is currently in Final Salvo, I really like the super speed. I really like the stability. Because, you know, I'm always going to use a gyro there, and when I go for the down with a gyro I get stability, and obviously making sure I get my stability from my bulwark gyro as well, or the purge gyro is extremely useful for me, for my survival, and also super speed, you know, it gives me some healing as well. But I've not got adaptive armor, so you gain stacking toughness when struck and reduce incoming condition damage. Because I haven't got that reduction in condition damage, which at the moment is extremely useful against necros, and also mesmers that are running condi as well, or anyone that's running conditions, you know, conditioned revenants, conditioned thieves and whatnot. You know, I've not got that extra kind of buffer for my condi's duration. So what I've done is I'm going to Holbrook because I'm stacking might anyway. I've got you know, Marauder amulet, which is giving me a lot of damage, so extra might duration, and obviously there you can see on the 6th piece there, minus 20% condition duration applied to you, which is helping me to survive those fights even longer. And then, you know, air and blood is, you know, this is a fairly normal combination which people use and pretty much use in the meta anyway. So stealing health, extra damage, you know, as well as also, you know, 50% chance on crit to cause a lightning strike in hammer most of the time. That's where you're doing the damage, and every 3 seconds, you know, you're able to do some nice extra damage with that. So what else is useful? Really, to make sure you know, kind of using automated medical response is very, very important. As a caster and as a person watching and viewing the game, watching other people, I know what to do. But myself, when playing, it's, you know, it's very different. There's a bit of a disconnect there because, you know, I'm just fairly average player. I'm doing okay at the moment, and I'm getting better, and I want to make sure I do get better. But looking at your traits independently like this is very important. Making sure you use things like this properly is very important, because if I have got my heal up like I have now, and I go down below 25% HP, I've wasted my cooldown, you know. So I want to make sure I've used this before I hit 25%, just as an example, you know. And remembering that also your elixirs are, you know, your elixirs are condi removal, so you're using things like super elixir or whatnot, very important, as well as healing mist to make sure you get rid of some of those conditions which are kind of hurting you a little bit. But also remember not to just use them to stack might, because you might need them in the future or the very near future. You know, 16-second cooldowns quite a lot, so if you're in a big fight and you just want to stack might and you're not got any conditions on you, but maybe you just want the healing, then fair enough. You know, you've just really got to pick those moments for those abilities to be important. Things like Toss Elixir X are so, you know, I'm one of the big, I'm really, yeah, I use this wrong sometimes. In fact, I use this in the bad way a lot of the time, and I waste it. So making sure, you know, they're not going to be able to block it or, you know, evade it is very important. Watch out for dodges, things like that come out from other people, and make sure you use them in great situations, you know, on Reaper Shroud, on Celestial Avatar, things like that. Transforms other people have to take them out of it, especially if an engineer is in Elixir X form as well, and they're in Rampage or Tornado. It's going to be very useful for you to make sure you've actually get rid of that transform. Effective, good thing to use, you know. Really nice. If you're going up against, you know, you've got Guardians on the other side, Defense Field is a very useful ability. Of course, in the meta, you know, making sure that you get rid of those projectiles, or you reflect them at the very least. Otherwise, you know, just little things. Realising that Acid Bomb is a ton of damage, and especially Marauder's amulet, man. I mean, the damage is really, really nice. You can see there how much damage it's doing right now. That's just from Acid Bomb. And in Paladins, it doesn't actually do as much damage of that. And it's AoE, you know, so realising that is very, very important. Of course, doing something like, you know, using it and then weapon swapping is also very important, but getting the timing is even more vital, because otherwise you just do what I just did. So, you know, and making sure it's all on the same spot, and you get a ton of damage there, and you can see how much damage it does. And I've got the lightning strike as well. That's 2 acid bombs almost that have just cleared out that mob pretty much. It's a very, very strong ability, and it is very, very underrated. Not many people are, well, diamond above, most engineers are using it pretty much. But it's, you know, people don't think about it as much as they probably should do. So, make sure you're using things like Thunderclap to get those stuns off, to, you know, rescue your allies and whatnot. But, you know, just generally, this build, I'm just telling you, this is the build I'm using personally. Marauders, I'm finding it much better. I've still got there's so much survival on Engineer. Really, the difference between Paladins and Marauders in ranked queue, I don't feel like, you know, I need to use it as much. I do sometimes when I can see there's a heavy damage composition on the other team and I just need a bit more sustain for myself. And I need vitality and toughness. But, you know, I feel like I'm actually genuinely doing better on this at the moment. Slick Shoes is definite. If you're going to stick with Scrapper, Slick Shoes is not only, you know, one of the most powerful abilities for Engineer in terms of making sure you're getting kills, downs, CCing enemies, getting rid of stability stacks, things like that. You know, you're going to get your super speed as well, and that gives you a nice heal. So you want to make sure you're using that. Obviously, Elixir X throw is really, really good to get rid of the transforms and whatnot. And if you're lucky enough, you won't get Tornado. But still, Tornado, if you've got a good Elementalists on your team, is really, really good. And actually, I do quite a lot of damage when I've got, you know, might stacking up, obviously getting the mites from it, might stacks anyway from using it, but it's really good control over or like a dead corpse, or if you're trying to get, or your allies are trying to get the res, you can control affect many people. It's very, very useful as well. So make sure you're trying to use all your abilities effectively, of course, goes without saying, but you know, this build is, it's been working for me in solo queue. Even it's the pro league, it's kind of the meta, you know, but mixed up with a few different things. Always look at the classes you're going against. Have a look to see, you know, whether or not you're going against Necros and whatnot, because, you know, Bulwark Gyro might not be as useful as, say, the Purge, getting rid of those conditions. Extra Condi removal for Engineers is really, really good. I actually feel like Purge Gyro might actually be the better option in the future for the meta, just because of what we're going up against currently. So I'm interested to see what happens in Pro League. It might switch around again. Maybe you're going up against so heavy condition classes that you want to just go for adaptive armor as well. But the thing is, if you go for that, you know, final salvo, you might want to get rid of your Bulwark Gyro and go for something else. But you know, if you're going for something like an Elixir, Elixir B, you get so many boons. You know, it's easy for the Necro to corrupt you. So if you're not going against the Necro, for example, you might want to use Elixir B. All these little things which are useful, that they're worth thinking about. So what I'm talking about in terms of Elixir B is the fact that you get all these boons. Pardon me. Obviously they can corrupt, like on Scepter, they can corrupt through Death Shard, whatever. And if you've got a ton of boons, you know, that's four extra conditions that can come across onto you, and that's not a very nice thing to have. So, you know, if you're not against Necros, this might be, again, very, very useful, and then you might be able to go over to adaptive armor. It really depends, you know, the old meta is quite good still, especially if you're not going up against Necros. Haven't got as much stability, but you still have the TOS Elixir B stability. So, you know, there's different options. These two, I would say are pretty much the most solid. Backpack Regenerate if you're running a really heal heavy build, but still, you know, for that burst, that's really important. Although Elixir S kind of screws me over in terms of conditions. So try different things here and there. Sometimes people might get surprised as well by what you're running, because if they know the meta quite well, they know what you're going to be running for an Engineer. And if you switch it up, you know, maybe you'll be able to surprise them. So every single game, I always look at what I'm going up against. It's very, very useful, and it's very important. You should be doing it. You should be changing these things. Just little things, you know, that are really going to help you out. But yeah, otherwise, I just wanted to really talk about that very quickly. One other thing I really like about Purge Gyro, for example, is the fact that you get a chemical field. So that Poison Cloud is AoE as well. So let's just have a look at how many. Imagine you're in a massive fight, and you've got a down body, you know, and they're low HP. You stick down that poison, it pulses. You've got 2 poison stacks, 4 poison stacks, and it just stays at 4. Reticks, because obviously it goes round timing wise. But that's a lot of healing that they can't bring out. And obviously regenerating the person who's in down state, they're not able to do that as quickly, because, you know, the poison is affecting the amount that's coming out of healing wise. So, you know, really, really nice things which help. And, you know, that's why I kind of like the chemical field. Because if you're going against a team that doesn't really have any projectiles, defense field is, you know, pretty much useless. It's not really worth using at all. So sometimes, a lot of the time, I do like to use purged arrows. It's been one of my favourites, and the poison field has really helped me in fights to sustain. Because look at the cooldown. Okay, it's 25 seconds, but if you're going against someone else and you've got a poison field, you know, I know you've got poison through the elixir gun, but a poison field, you're guaranteed to hit them because the poison field is really big. Like, that's a cap point, you know. And it's going to hit everyone that's on it, you know, so a big team fight. Other than, you know, if you're a mid on, say, faux fire, for example, because it's such a large capture point. But otherwise, yeah, just some points that I thought I'd mention that are extremely useful, you know. And, you know, getting Rampage, always fun and always good. I've been Jebro. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to, follow the channel, subscribe, like, comment. Tell me how you use the engineer. Tell me how you use your other builds, whether or not you pay too much attention to other classes and what's being run. But yeah, this is me with my new Juggernaut. I'll see you on the next video. Hello everyone, this is Jebro, and today we're talking about the Elementalists. We're talking about a bunker build with the dagger and the focus offhand. My focus looks very cool, I'm not going to lie. Let's just have a look at that. It's a Chak. What was it called? Chak focus, and it's a hand that you're actually